Look, I'm just going to say it. Plugin companies are getting way too comfortable. Over the last few years, it kind of feels like plugin companies have been becoming really aggressive with their marketing strategies and also with these new yearly updates and paid updates all over the place. And it just seems like they're always trying to find new ways to get money from us. Now, of course, I'm not talking about all plugin companies, but it seems like the industry is heading in a direction that is pretty grim with subscriptions and tons of paid updates and everything's paid. And this huge marketing push towards subscription models and all this stuff that I'm not a huge fan of has actually really made me go into my plugins and start deleting a lot of junk out. I mean, I realized I've just bought so much stuff over the years that I don't need. And I've done a lot of self-reflecting on like, why did I get some of these plugins and why did I support some of these companies? But anyways, I want to go into detail about some of the things that I've been noticing that have been really kind of alarming. The first and most obvious thing to kind of steer clear of is the YouTube guru style ads where it's, I mean, you know, the ones where it's like, buy this thing and it's going to be super easy to make music. You barely have to do anything. And they are always these companies that seemingly came out of nowhere, or it's like a YouTuber that made a product or an artist that made a product where they're just trying to sell you something. To me, these just seem like they're just like get money quick type schemes where they're not really actually interested in helping out the community. They're not really interested in making something that's actually going to be valuable to someone years down the line. A lot of these things are just, you're not seeing them in major studios. They're not really worthwhile. So I would say it's pretty easy to know just to steer clear from that stuff. Another thing that's really just been really annoying in most industries, but now is kind of working its way into the music industry, is the subscription model. Now, I have no problem if you want to offer a subscription model, you get a bunch of plugins for a monthly fee, and you still have the ability to purchase plugins. I don't have any problem with that. But when you make it so that your only way to get your plugins or to get your products is through a subscription, and there's no way to just purchase them outright, I think that is incredibly anti-consumer, especially for people who have supported you beforehand and have bought your licenses to your products. And now all of a sudden, there's just nothing for them. I can tell you right now that if Ableton ever does something like this, I will be switching to Fruity Loops or just something else. I cannot stand this. This is my least favorite thing. It's one of the biggest problems with Adobe products. You see people complaining about it all the time, and it really sucks that it's working its way into the music industry. Thankfully for right now, I think the only DAW that I know of that is really getting scummy with this is Pro Tools, which personally, yes, it's used in major studios a lot, but I think it's on the way out at this point. I think they're kind of losing a lot of their customer base. So it's not a huge deal, but I can see this going further, and I could see more, not only plugin companies, but unfortunately DAW companies getting into this. And that's where things are going to get really annoying. Let's just hope it doesn't get bad. But guys, I would just really recommend do not support these subscription models where the subscription is the only option. And the reason is because when you support these types of things, it shows them that it works. And trust me, they do make more money this way, so they're going to want to push that. Something I do want to say here is I'm not talking about Splice. Splice is fine in my opinion, and the reason for that is because if you cancel your membership, you get to keep your previous sounds. Yes, you do lose your credits, which is annoying, but just spend your credits before you cancel and you don't even have to worry about it. The next thing that I believe is incredibly anti-consumer and just something that I would really strongly urge you guys to not support companies that do this, which is paid updates. Now, I'm not talking about paid updates for new features, like Ableton going from 10 to 11. They're adding a ton of new stuff in there. They've done a lot of development work. It makes sense for me to have to pay for an update. Do I want to pay for an update for that? Not really, but people got to get paid, and I understand that. What I'm talking about is when, for example, you go from Mac OS 11 to 12. There are some companies that in order for you to get an update for that software to even work anymore, you have to pay for an update. I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory why that's a terrible business practice and why that's something I don't believe you should support. So we'll go ahead and just move on to the next one. So this is my final point, and this one is probably going to be the most controversial one, but I want you guys to hear me out, and I'd like to start a discussion about this. So if you guys have anything to say about this, go ahead and leave a comment down below. So what I'm talking about is new versions of software that come out every year as paid updates. The reason I have a problem with this is because a lot of times these updates are relatively small, they don't add a lot of content, and the updates are pretty expensive. And if they would just focus that energy, maybe 2 or 3 years, put all those into a single update that comes out a few years down the line, your money would go a lot further and you would get a lot more out of the update. Now, of course, you don't have to update your plugins yearly, but I ran into a problem with a plugin that I used all the time, And essentially, I had an older version of this plugin because I had really no reason to update. So I was a few versions behind, nothing crazy. I think I was only like 2 versions behind. And when I went from Ableton Live 10 to 11, all of a sudden Ableton was crashing like crazy. Well, finally I narrowed it down to that one plugin, and ever since I stopped using that plugin, Ableton has been really stable. If you didn't know, you can look in your crash reports and you can actually find what is crashing Ableton. So I did confirm it was this plugin. I'm not just guessing. It was this plugin that was crashing Ableton. And I had the most current update for it. They don't release updates for this plugin anymore because there are 2 versions that are newer. Now, keep in mind, like I said, this is a plugin that they update almost every year. So I'm basically 2 years behind. I don't really want to pay for a new update. So I just kind of replaced it with something that, like I said, comes from a company that is, in my opinion, much more consumer friendly, and that was FabFilter. So that's where my problem with yearly updates comes from. It's not necessarily the fact that they are providing new content for you and you have to pay for it. Like I said, I have no problem supporting developers when they're adding new content. The problem is that I bought this software like 3 years ago and it's no longer receiving stability updates, which to me is like the bare minimum, just being able to use something that I purchased. So yeah, like I said, I'd like to hear what you guys think about that one. I know that one's going to be a little bit more controversial because I know people love new stuff, and trust me, I love new stuff too, but that it does create problems as well. So what are some companies that you can trust? Well, I'm going to list a few companies off, but I do want to preface this by saying these companies could change. If tomorrow one of these companies is the new top dog, they might change their business model into something that is very anti-consumer because they know they're going to make money off of it. But with that being said, these are the ones that I think are pretty fair and pretty easy to support, and I've had really no issues at all with them. So the first one is FabFilter, and then Spectrasonics, and then Xfer, and the last one is Sound Toys. If you guys have had any issues or anything positive with some other companies or with these companies or anything in general, go ahead and leave those in the comments down below. I'd love to start a discussion about this, and I really truly do believe that this is a pretty serious topic and something that can eventually end up really hurting the producer community if all these companies just become subscription models. I mean, could you imagine how frustrating it would be if you had to pay $100 a month just to make some beats on your computer? I mean, that'd be incredibly annoying. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Other than that, if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.